Hello, welcome back to IM Movies. Each football team in London has a firm that works illegally outside the fields and takes care of things for the team. The firm of the West Ham team is known as GSE, or Green Street Elite, and after their match with Tottenham, GSE members are seen at the station when they encounter Tottenham firm members. GSE leader Pete Dunham warns them to take the next train, but they argue, which leads to a fight. Meanwhile, the scene cuts to Matt Buckner at Harvard University. He appears to be a well-decorated journalism student, but is expelled due to a false accusation of drug possession. Matt decides not to defend himself in order to protect his rich roommate's academic and athletic future, Jeremy Van Holden. While Matt packs his stuff, Jeremy pays him money, but Matt throws it away. Jeremy thanks him, claims that he has his family's reputation to take care of, and tells him that he will make arrangements for him to return after his father gets re-elected. After Jeremy leaves, Matt tries to talk to his father and hoping to get some help, but fails and has to accept the money. He then reaches the airport to leave for London. When Matt reaches London, he meets his sister, Shannon. Matt jokingly asks Shannon if there was a terrorist attack. Shannon replies that the city may look messy due to last night's football match. She introduces him to her little son, Ben, after which they move to Shannon's house. They're on their way when Matt informs her about his suspension from Harvard and that his roommate set him up by placing his drugs inside his closet. Shannon finds it sketchy that he did not fight for his seat and doubts that Matt has been using drugs, but he clears everything. The duo talks about their father at Shannon's house when her husband, Steve, arrives. Shannon introduces him to Matt, and as she leaves them alone, Steve informs him that he likes his presence, but he has some plans with his wife, so he must manage tonight. Suddenly, Steve hears a knock at his back door and finds his brother, Pete, indicating that the GSE leader is Pete, whom a leader is called Major. Steve introduces him to Matt, and when Pete starts singing his firm's song, Shannon leaves with Ben. Pete then informs his brother about the mess he has been through and asks for money. Steve thinks of a plan and offers $100 to Steve for taking Matt with him to tonight's match. Pete has to agree to this, and when Matt is leaving, Steve asks him not to give money to Pete and to use it for drinks, while Shannon seems concerned about Matt. Steve shows her 2 tickets to Chicago and lifts her mood. Matt and Pete walk together, and as they take a turn, Pete asks Matt to give him half of the money while he can do whatever he wants with the rest. Matt disagrees with this and tries to hit Pete when he forces him. Pete overpowers him and laughs after learning that this is the first fight Matt has ever had. Pete asks Matt to prepare as he will learn a lot, and the duo arrives outside a pub. Pete informs him that they hate journalists and cops here, while his father is an exception, and guides him to keep it a secret that Matt's father is a journalist. Pete leads him inside and introduces him to his friends, Ned, Dave, Swill, Ike, and Keith. They like Matt, and as they are having fun, Bover arrives there. Pete informs him about Matt, but he ignores him and seems unhappy with his presence. After they send Matt to fetch them drinks, Bover talks to Pete about their plan for the match and mentions that it will be bad if Pete does not show up due to Matt. Pete tells him it is his problem, and when Matt returns, Pete lies to his friends that Matt is an international karate champion and that the movie Karate Kid is based on his story. Everyone laughs at him, and when Bover sings their team song, his friends seem busy with Matt. They ask him about his mentor, Mr. Miyagi, and whether he was paid for allowing a character based on him. After the party ends, Matt is in the washroom when Bover meets him and threatens that they don't like tourists there. When Pete and his friends are leaving for the match, Matt insists on returning, but Pete forces him to join them. They enter the stadium, and as the match between West Ham United and Zulus begins, Bover sneaks to the opponent's side and mocks them, so he is thrown out of the stadium. During halftime, Bover's friends meet him, and Dave mentions he knows about Zulu's next step. As they return to the ground, Matt gets permission to go home. He is on his way home when Zulu's firm members find him and beat him, stating that GSE Major have started leaving their men alone. They are about to hurt Matt when Pete and his friends show up and fight them. They are leaving in their van when a man breaks their windscreen and leads them to the place where Zulu's members are waiting for them. Matt finds GSE outnumbered and asks Pete to leave, but Pete tells him that they don't back down when he's with them and asks him to find someone he hates from the other group and fight. As the two groups engage and fight, Matt gets punched, which infuriates him, and he fights like a beast. After GSE gains the upper hand over the Zulus, everyone appreciates Matt for being brave and standing by them. Matt spends the night with Pete, and when they go for breakfast, Matt questions him about GSE. Pete informs him that every football team has a firm that handles things off the field. He mentions that their team have GSE. It shows that some have better teams and mediocre firms, but GSE is a top-notch firm. When asked about Millwall, he informs Matt that Millwall is GSE's worst enemy, led by Tommy Hatcher, whose son died during the time of their Major, and after that, he lost the plot. Matt asks questions about Major and learns that Major was the badass who ran the GSE in the 1990s when Pete was growing up. The duo then returns to Steve's house, where Steve gets mad at Pete for getting Matt injured. When Pete tries to explain everything, Steve loses his mind and throws them both out of his house, while Shannon gets mad at him. Pete thanks him for going against Steve for him, and as they return to the pub, Bover spots them and calls them a couple of gays. Pete does not like this and tells him he has crossed his line, but Keith calms them down. Matt returns to Shannon's home to get his stuff while she informs him that she cannot let him live with Pete. But Matt insists on moving in with him. Shannon tells him that despite being called for 3 years, he did not show up even on her wedding day, and now he wants to leave her house. When she claims that Pete and his thug friends are not the answers, Matt does not like this and replies that she left the country after their mother's death. But Matt feels sorry after saying those words and hugs her sister. Later, Pete questions Matt about what he studied at Harvard before he got expelled, and Matt lies and says that he studied history there. Pete then leads Matt to a team of kids playing football on a field and asks the kids to prove that football is better than baseball, as Matt thinks. Matt is appointed goalkeeper, and the kids quickly score goals and prove their point. Later that night, when Matt and his friends are having fun, Bover walks in and seems jealous and leaves the pub with his bike. After that, he is having dinner at the Millwall restaurant when Tommy Hatcher, the major of Millwall firm, and his men spot him there. Tommy tells him that his guys are prepared to kill him and taunts him about the American in their firm. Bover replies that he is temporary, and when they are talking about Pete, their conversation is ruined by a couple sitting beside them. Tommy shouts and asks the man to keep his girl silent, and when she keeps talking, he beats the man badly. And Bover stops him. Tommy and his men leaves the restaurant, warning him to see each other soon. The next day, Pete and his friend are on their next hunt when Pete asks Matt to stay home and out of trouble. Soon, Ike and Swill join them, and Pete is pissed not to find Bover and the rest of his friends on the spot. Still, they decide to move ahead, and as they reach the station, they find Bover and others inside. Pete asks Bover to stop acting weird, and as they enter the train and are having fun, Matt joins them. When asked why he was there, Matt replied that he thought only 3 of them existed. Having no other options, they have to let Matt join them, and Bover does not like this again. Soon, Dave calls Pete and informs him that their rivals are waiting for them at the last station. So they think of another way. Bover stops the train by pressing the emergency stop button, which helps them escape from the train. Pete asks his friends to update Dave about their plan and that they need 2 cabs. Unfortunately, they don't find any cabs there, so Matt looks around and thinks of an idea after looking at a truck. The same truck reaches the site where GSE's rivals are waiting for them, and Matt tricks them by acting as a worker for Paramount Pictures. As they allow the truck to pass, GSE members step out and attack them. Pete and his friends beat their rivals badly and left as police arrived. After that, Matt mentions that everyone accepted him in GSE, and having his friends back was great for him. He claims he has never lived so close to danger, yet felt very confident. Moreover, the violence grows on him, and after a few days, Matt comes to see Shannon and is stunned to see their father there. Matt's father, Carl, tries to talk to him, but Matt denies talking to him when he claims he does not know whether his son is guilty in the drug-dealing case. Matt tells him that he cannot show up to be a dad again when Carl realizes his mistakes and requests that he see his friend in London Times. Meanwhile, GSE members are seen hearing the announcement of teams by draw, and they all get excited to get Millwall as their opponent team. Tommy is also excited about it. While Ned is talking to Bovver on the phone, he saw Matt visiting London Times. So Ned tells Bovver, which gets him infuriated and considers Matt a traitor. Following that, Carl talks to him about GSE, but Matt divulges that they are only his friends. As Carl reaches Shannon's house, he asks Matt to get his reputation clear and rejoin Harvard, but Matt tells him he will not go back to America with him. He then adds, for his dad to feel better that he has his journal with him all the time. Soon, Steve joins them, and after they are alone, he informs him that GSE has Millwall against them in the draw. Shannon is pleased to see Carl playing with Ben and informs Steve that he is already a better grandfather than he was a father. From Shannon's conversation, he learns that Matt is studying journalism, which shocks him. He reaches the pub where Matt is celebrating with his friends and tells him that he likes him and wants to talk privately. Steve is mad at him for keeping his degree secret, and as they are leaving, Steve's old friend, Terry, stops him from leaving and reveals that Steve is the old major. On the other hand, Bovver and his friends reach Pete's place and inform him that Matt is an undercover journalist. Before they enter the house, Pete warns him to be right about this. When they check Matt's laptop, they are thrilled to see his journal and the stories about them. In the meantime, Steve mentions that in his old days he had been insane and describes Tommy and his son Tommy Jr., who used to come to the matches with him. Almost a decade earlier, they lost their match against Millwall, due to which Tommy and his friends laughed at them. Steve admits that he lost his mind and gathered all his crew to beat Tommy and his men. Unfortunately, during one of their fights, he saw Tommy's son being crushed under GSE's boots, and after that he never watched a match. He was lost after that incident until Shannon found him and helped him get over everything. He promised her and Ben that he would never return to that life again. Suddenly, Pete arrives and gets Matt beaten, declaring him a traitor. Matt tells him that he went there with his father, and he knew his father was a journalist. Bovver is infuriated and talks to Steve about Pete's inability to lead them. Instead, Steve tells him GSE is Pete's firm, and he calls the shot here, so Bovver gets mad. He leaves GSE and arrives at Millwall's pub to inform Tommy that Matt's a journalist, and that he is in the GSE pub where he will also find Steve there. On the other hand, Pete tells Matt that any little journalistic act can end GSE, and he needs to convince the firm that Matt is with them. Meanwhile, Bovver leads Tommy and his men to the GSE pub, and before they may enter, he requests that they slow down, but they knock him out. Pete requests that Steve stay with him through the Millwall match, but he denies it, saying he has a promise to keep. Suddenly, Tommy and his men attack the pub and beat everyone. Tommy finds Steve, who tries to calm him, but Tommy forces him to fight. Steve defends himself, but unfortunately Tommy stabs him with a bottle and leaves, telling him that his death will even them. Bovver wakes up and realizes his mistake, after which he helps Pete and his friend take Steve to the hospital. After a while, the doctor informs Pete that Steve is out of danger, and he approaches Bovver. After making him realize his mistake, Pete asks him to get out of his sight. Moments later, Shannon arrives and beats Pete for bringing Steve in this condition. She meets Steve, and after telling him that he will be fine, she reveals that she will be leaving tomorrow with Ben, as Steve has broken his promise. Pete and Matt meet their friends, and Pete announces a straightener with Tommy this time. Pete and Matt see Shannon at home, and she informs them she is leaving for Boston. Pete hears this and asks Matt to do the same, as it is his brother who is in the hospital. Meanwhile, Bovver spends his night on the road. The next morning, all GSE members said goodbye to their families, unsure what would happen next. Matt realizes he is doing something wrong as they leave, so he reunites with Pete and his firm. Eventually, both firms encounter each other, and Pete fights Tommy. When Pete gains the upper hand on Tommy, he uses a stick to break his arm and leg. Pete gets severely injured, but Bovver shows up and saves him. Matt and Bovver takes Pete away when Matt spots Shannon passing by and calls her for help. As Shannon stops by, Tommy's friend Martin attacks her, and when Matt tries to fight him, Pete asks Bovver to help Matt if he wants to make amends for what he did. When Bovver and Matt are fighting Martin, Pete spots Tommy headed toward them, so he infuriates him by mentioning that it was his mistake that his son died. Tommy loses his mind and accidentally kills Pete in a fit of fury, while Matt escapes with his sister. All GSE members are sad after losing their leader, But Matt narrates that Pete's life and death have taught him a lesson, and he will live to honor him. In the next scene, Jeremy Van Holden is seen at a party with his friends, and as he enters the washroom, Matt catches him using cocaine and makes him recall what he said about hooking him back up at Harvard. When Jeremy confesses what he has done with Matt, he records his statement and informs him that it is his ticket back to Harvard. Matt leaves singing the GSE anthem, and the movie ends here. Thank you for supporting my small channel. Please like and share this video to help this channel out. Thanks for watching and see you at the next one.